He's a health educator. I could talk about this man for about 20 minutes. It's an experience listening to him. We're honored to have him here with us today, and for this health seminar that he's doing at Plantation Church for the past 2 days and the next 2 days. He's on his way back to Oregon. He just flew in from, Paul, where were you?
Bolivia.
Bolivia. I spent a week there one night.
I want them to try this one.
All right. Anyway, like I say, gentlemen, this guy is he's gonna either make you or break you one way or another. But if there's any more index cards, please, you want to turn them in now, gentlemen? We appreciate this. We'll read off the names and the amounts at the end of the breakfast. Anyway, I'm going to thank you very much for coming if I don't get a chance, because Paul is going to take over this from here on out. And I'm very proud to introduce the guest speaker for this prayer breakfast, Mr. Paul Volk.
You guys want to go get some side seats. It'll be easier for you to see what we're doing. I think you'll be a little more comfortable. Thank you, Jim, for the introduction. I've certainly heard a variety of countries, and my eyebrow kind of goes up because I'm going, been there, been there, been there, been there. So if any of you have an interest for me to come to your country or to your city, please see me. I have bags, will travel. So if you're interested in having me come, I would be available. I have a few slots open after the first of the year. I'm pretty much booked until the end of the year. But after the first of the year, May and June, I will be in Korea. But other than that, maybe March, I might be on a boat. And we should have a good time there. I'm glad that you're here. I know that the women's ministry is always active and busy. Do I need to click anything for you here? Okay. Women's ministries are always active, and you always hear about them all the time, but where are the men? Where are the men? You guys are the priest of the house. And if anybody should be meeting together, it should be the men. Because you're going to be molding and guiding those children that God has given you, and you're going to be helping that spouse of yours to find her way to the kingdom as well. You've been put in charge. You're the priest of the household. If you do not take that authority, Satan will. Did you hear what I said? If you do not take that authority that God gave you, Satan gladly will take it. And when he does, he will destroy your entire family. Got to take that priesthood. Now, there's a couple of things that are going to be helpful for you. One of them is the book Steps to Christ. This is my favorite book outside of the Bible. And I believe it was no coincidence that it is the second most translated book in the world. Over 150 languages and still counting. This book is worldwide read, second only to the Bible. And if you haven't read this book in the last year, I recommend you get it out and read it again. I have an entire series I do on this book, which will be available tonight. But I cover this book because Steps to Christ, this is called Happiness Digest. They've reformatted it to sort of a Reader's Digest sort of look so that it'll be more user-friendly to people. And I have a bunch of them with me because when I fly, I give them out on the airplane. And I still got 3 more to get rid of before I go home. So I passed this book out. We just filmed this in Bolivia with a Spanish translator. And I took people through this book, chapter at a time. What does it mean to repent, to confess, to grow up into Christ? What does prayer mean? She gives 7 conditions on prayer. If you don't know those 7 conditions, God may not be hearing your prayer. That's right. There are 7 conditions to prayer. Prayer is not just picking up your phone and calling. Prayer is something very critical. It's long distance. And if you don't meet those conditions, you're not going to get all the benefit that you can. So you need to understand these principles. What to do with doubt. If you're doubting your beliefs, you're going to start believing your doubts. And she talks about how to rejoice in the Lord. Now let me read to you just a couple of concepts here from this book. The warfare against self is the greatest battle that was ever fought. You know what the battle is? You. That's the greatest battle you'll ever fight. And the particular battle is right here in your frontal lobe. Man is the only one who has this amazing, huge frontal lobe. All other animals, at the end of their snout, their head goes back. Man is the only creature that goes straight up. He has this massive frontal lobe. No other creature on this planet has. That's his reasoning between right and wrong. That's his conscience. That's what makes you different. And she says the battle against yourself is the greatest battle you will ever fight. She continues, the yielding of self requires a struggle. It's not going to happen easy. There's going to be some effort. Just like when you learned how to walk, it was a struggle. You may have broken your nose, you may have fallen down and cracked your head, but you didn't give up. Why? Because you knew what the result would be. It was a struggle, but you did it. I saw all of you walk in tonight, or this morning. It requires a struggle. The soul must submit to God before it can be renewed in holiness. Whatever shall draw away the heart from God must be given up. And I also include whoever. Whatever or whoever will draw your soul away from Christ, give it up. Give it up. It will never be worth it. God does not require us to give up anything that is for our best interest to keep. People say, wow, didn't you give up a lot when you became a Christian? I didn't give up anything. I gained everything. I didn't give up anything. I didn't lose anything. I gained everything. God has something vastly better to offer you than you're seeking right now for yourself. He's got something better. You think, oh man, but I really like watching this. I really like reading this. I really like doing this. God's got something you don't even know. You're eating mud pies and there's a strawberry pie waiting for you. A mango pie waiting for you. And you're sitting there, this mud pie is fine. I'm familiar with it. I like it. I know I do. And the Lord is standing there with mango and strawberry pies. And you're sitting there with mud pie. Thinking, this is fine. You have no idea what He's got planned for you. Another statement. This is a good one. Satan will come to tell you that you're a great sinner. Has he ever done that to you? What do? Agree. He's right. Tell him, you ought to know. You put me up to half of it. But when he starts telling you you're a sinner, you start talking about Jesus right now. Don't get into that discussion. You get into that discussion, you're finished. Do not talk about you. You talk about Jesus. As soon as you start talking about Jesus, he starts to slide away. He doesn't want to hear about that. So as soon as he starts talking about you and what a great sinner you are, say, yep, you're right, now let's talk about Jesus. Conversation's over. He's gone. He doesn't want to talk about Jesus. So you keep that topic on to Jesus. Another statement. We shall often have to bow down and weep at the feet of Jesus. Okay? If you have struggles, don't be overwhelmed. It's going to happen. Often we're going to have to bow down and weep at the feet of Jesus because of our shortcomings and mistakes. But we are not to be discouraged. Even if we are overcome by the enemy, we are not cast off, not forsaken and rejected of God. You know, when I go out to the airport and I see those airplanes taking off, I say, Lord, let that be my Christian life. Steady, steady, steady. Yeah, there's going to be some air pockets. There's going to be some bumps. But steady, steady into the heavens. Ellen White says it's not the occasional good deed or misdeed. It's the direction of the life. It's not that the jet bumps up and down. It's that the jet's going up. That should be our Christian life. Every time you see that plane taking off, say, Lord, let that be my Christian experience. I'm on my way to heaven. I'm going up. I'm going to have some bumps. There's going to be some air pockets. But I'm heading in that direction. Keep that your goal. And the last thought. Here's the whole secret right here. This will be the biggest thing you'll ever do. Consecrate yourself to God in the morning. Make this your very first work. And I'm going to be talking about this more tomorrow night. About how to be sure you have a Christian walk with God. This is the most important thing I will ever discuss with you. Tomorrow night is the critical night. If you have to miss any night, tomorrow night is not the one you want to miss. This is the one that pulls it all together, that makes it all work. Consecrate yourself to God in the morning. Make this your very first work. So, we're told that there are 5 avenues to our soul. 5 avenues that Satan's going to try to use to keep you from being the priest of your house. What are those 5 avenues? Anybody can tell me?
5 senses.
The 5 senses, absolutely. Everything you hear, see, smell, taste, or touch is permanently recorded in this brain forever. It's here. Everything you see, hear, smell, taste, or touch. So you need to protect what you're listening to, what you're watching, what you smell, taste, or touch. because it's going to be permanently recorded here, and Satan can pull it back anytime. He can remind you, remember how good that was? Remember how much fun you had? And your lower nature is saying, yep, 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 yep. And the higher nature is saying, no, 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 no. There's going to be that struggle going on. And again, we'll cover this more tomorrow night. But I want to touch down on some particular areas here that deal with men. There's a chapter in the book Patriarchs and Prophets that you need to read as men. Chapter 41, Patriarchs and Prophets. You need to read this as men. We learn from the mistakes of the children of Israel right before they went into the Promised Land. Chapter 41 starts on page 453. 453. Now, I borrowed this from Curtis's library. Where's Curtis at? Oh, there he is. Okay. So there's some pencil markings in here he let me put in. I'm going to read to you a couple of statements here because it's profound. It just will blow you away. You would think she was on the evening news telling you what's going on right now in the world. That's what you would think. So listen to what she says here. Page 453. This chapter is called Apostasy at Jordan. Page 453. The children of Israel are one river away from the Promised Land. The River Jordan is right there. There's the Promised Land. Just one big swim and they're home. You and I are right there on the Promised Land. We can see it. We're ready to step in. But the men didn't make it. Did you know that? The men didn't go in. Thousands of them didn't go in. Do you know why? If you don't, you better read chapter 41 and make sure you're on top of this. Because Satan, she says, is going to do the very same thing again right before we enter the Promised Land. He's going to do it again. And guess what? It's already started. Gentlemen, it has already started. Page 453. They're right there across from the River Jordan. Beautiful place in Bel Peor. And she says, amid these attractive surroundings, they encountered an evil more deadly than the mighty hosts of armed men or wild beasts in the wilderness. They encountered the most dangerous enemy. Not armed men, not wild beasts. The most dangerous enemy. Same one you're facing right now. That country, so rich in natural advantages, had been defiled by the inhabitants. In the public worship of Baal, the leading deity, the most degrading and iniquitous scenes were constantly enacted. You ever heard of internet and television? These scenes were constantly enacted. You turn on any television this evening, and you're going to see these scenes constantly enacted, aren't you? On every side were places noted for idolatry and licentiousness. The surroundings exerted a polluting influence upon the Israelites. Their minds became familiar with vile thoughts constantly suggested. Their life of ease and inaction produced its demoralizing effect. And almost unconsciously to themselves, they were departing from God and coming into a condition where they would fall an easy prey to temptation. So Satan is setting up his program. He's setting it up. And here it is. Are you ready? After a time, the Midianite women began to steal into the camp. Gentlemen, the Midianite women have arrived. They're here. They're among us right now. The Midianite women have arrived. Those who would have conquered their enemies in battle were overcome by the wiles of the heathen women. A terrible pestilence of plague broke out among them, and tens of thousands speedily fell to prey. How many? Tens of thousands. They fell. They fell. The women who had been made captive by the attacking army were put to death at the command of Moses. Why did Moses put these women to death? Because they were most guilty and the most dangerous foe of Israel. These women were the most dangerous foe of Israel. The Israelites, who could not be conquered by the arms of men, fell to the enchantment of the women. They fell prey to the harlots. Such is the power that women, enlisted in the service of Satan, has exerted to entrap and destroy souls. And she goes on. She talks about the children of Seth, Samson, Solomon, David. You know these men. You know what happened. All along through the ages, there are strewn the wrecks of character that have been stranded upon the rocks of sensual indulgence. As we approach the close of time, listen, this is now, this is right now. As we approach the close of time, as the people of God stand upon the borders of the heavenly Canaan, we're ready to go in, Satan will, as of old, redouble his efforts to prevent them from entering into the promised land. Did you catch that? Redouble. Yes. He's going to do it again. It's going to be a big repeat. Sensual indulgence weakens the mind and debases the soul. The moral and intellectual powers are benumbed and paralyzed by the gratification of the animal propensities. It takes time to degrade those formed into the image of God to brutes or to be satanic. But by beholding, we become changed. By the indulgence of impure thoughts, man can so educate his mind that sin, which he once loathed, will become pleasant to him. The course pursued by the base and the vile is kept before the people in the periodicals of the day. And everything that can excite passion is brought before them in exciting stories. I guarantee you tonight there'll be at least a dozen exciting stories on that television set for you to watch. Exciting stories. Through the drama, he has worked for ages to excite passion and glorify vice. Through what? Drama. This is make-believe. This is pretend. She says, our answer, we're going to have to go with David on Psalm 51. Create in me a clean heart, O God. Renew a right spirit within me. We have to go along with David in Psalm 119. Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against thee. And the very last paragraph of this chapter, she says, the lips of a strange woman, this is quoting from Proverbs, the lips of a strange woman drop as honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Remove thy way far from her, and come not near her house. Her house is inclined to death. None who go to her return again. Her guests are in the depths of hell. There it is. Chapter 41. Oh, chapters 9-18. Her guests are the depths of hell. And anyone who goes there, they don't return. That's Proverbs 2:18 and 19. Brothers, this is our warning chapter. This is the one Satan is going to do again. He knows how we're wired. We're visual. Women are audio. They like to hear nice things. We like to see nice things. Unfortunately, some of the things we like to see are a problem. The number one cause for ministers losing their license is pornography. Did you know that? Number one, hands down. Pornography. Ministers are losing their license. The Midianite women are in the camp. They're here. They've arrived on the internet. That's where they're at. They're waiting for you and you and you and you to push that button. And it's easy. I fell in it to myself a couple of years ago, accidentally. I'd gotten an email from Kathy. I finally found you. I thought it was somebody from high school, somebody from college. There was Miss Bubbles all over the screen. And you know what? I couldn't stop that for the next 2 hours. I was so amazed and so captivated, I just kept clicking those buttons. Link, link, link. Yes. And I was a pastor. I'm a health evangelist. And there the buttons went. Happened 3 times. And I said, Lord, what is this? And he said, Paul, the Midianite women have arrived. You need to stop this. So I did. I don't have internet in my house. When I go to the library has a button that you push, screens all internet. That's the only place I look at the internet, is in the library. It's all screen. Miss Bubbles cannot show up. That's right. Now I want to tell you what I heard at camp meeting 2 years ago. Jerry Patzer. How many of you know Jerry Patzer? You know who he is? He's the president of the North Pacific Union. Now this man is well thought of. Last year at the General, 2 years ago now, is it in St. Louis? Time flies on me. Yeah. I was one of the speakers at the General Conference this last time in St. Louis. And Jerry Patzer was there. Do you know that when it came down to the final 4 names to be elected, the world leader, of course it was Jan Paulson was there, Ted Wilson was there as one of the final names, Jerry Patzer, and then a 4th guy from Europe. I didn't know who he was, but I knew 3 of the 4. Jerry Patzer was one of the 4 final men in the final vote to be the world leader for our church. And 2 years ago, Jerry Patzer told us something very true and honest at camp meeting. He said, same thing I just told you, I do not have internet in my house because I cannot trust myself. It's too easy to push that button. So he says, I don't have internet in my house. And in my office, where my internet is, my screen is on the corner of my desk. And whenever I go online, I get up first and I open up a door on this side of my office, and I go over to the other side and I open up the door on the other side of my office, so that while I am online, anybody who walks by either door can see exactly what's on my screen. And that's the only way I can protect myself from the Midianite women. They're here. They're here. And you need to protect yourself from these women. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I would gather the vast majority of you has seen Miss Bubbles already. She has a big circuit, and she doesn't sleep. But the Bible says her paths lead to hell. That's where she's going to take you. Yes. So, gentlemen, we have an early warning device that helps us to know our mind is going in the wrong way. It's called an erection. And I'm just telling you just exactly what's going on. When you get an erection, you're in trouble. That is the red flag, the warning sign, you're in trouble. And you need to do something now to take care of that. Because if you don't, you're going to end up down hell's corridor. God gave you that early warning device. That's for men. Because we are the only one that can introduce intercourse. Women cannot have sex with men if we're not ready. We have to be the one to initiate sex. And God gave us that early warning device, the erection, to let us know our brain is ready for penetration. When your brain is ready for penetration, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. And you need to do something quickly to take care of that. You should have done something before to make sure it didn't happen. When it happens, you need to move now to make sure it doesn't happen. For me, I go on a fast run. It takes care of it. You burn up that energy through your muscles, and it takes care of it. But I have a regular exercise program that I do. I'm also extremely guarded about the food that goes inside my body, because there's food that goes inside a male body that can cause him to have sexual drives. One of them is chicken droppings. Eggs. That's right. First pamphlet that Ellen White was ever responsible for producing is called An Appeal to Mothers. How many of you are familiar with this pamphlet? An Appeal to Mothers? Yeah, most people aren't. It's the first pamphlet she produced. They told us in college that she put this pamphlet together for mothers who had male children who were having problems with masturbation. And she put this pamphlet together, An Appeal to Mothers. And one mother had written to her, and she said she had 4 or 5 boys, and they were having problems with self-abuse. And she said, remove eggs from your table and never serve them again with the boys while they're in puberty. No eggs. That's right. Irritating spices, other things I'm going to talk about tonight, sets you men up to have problems. Irritating spices, the meat, which brings you into your animal propensities and your lower nature. You look at the meat-eating animals of the world, they're the most violent and aggressive of all the animals. You look at the vegetarian animals, they tend to be the docile, more gentle ones and the ones that we can domesticate. But it's the meat-eating animal that creates that aggression, that violence, and that sexual drive. It sets you up for failure. It's exactly what it does. And I don't care if you're married. That kind of stimulation is not healthy sex. That's violent and aggressive sex. It's not passionate, loving, Christ-like sex. And there's a difference between the two. And if you don't know, you better figure that out. Otherwise, your marriage is going to go to pieces. Because God is not going to bless that kind of physical relationship. It has to be pure, has to be sacred, has to be holy. And when you say, wow, I'm going to eat all these foods to rev me up. Yeah, you're revving up in the wrong direction. Okay? You're creating a very violent, passionate, demonic sexual activity. And that's not what God blesses. That's not what heaven ordained. And when I get with guys, I talk to our academy kids and I separate them. I talk to the guys separately and then I talk to the girls separately. Because the girls are responsible in this area by the way they dress and the way they flirt. They're setting us up because we're visual. They know that. And so they do these things because they think it's cute, they think they're having fun. And then when they get raped, they say, how could this happen to me? You were advertising, you had the lights on, the batteries were running. Don't play innocent stupid to me, girl. We know exactly what you're doing. And when you turn to Victoria's Secret, and when you turn to all these Britney Spears idiots, you're going to set yourself up for the same problem. That's exactly what happens. So, we need to guard these 5 senses. Something else I'm going to tell you about, since I'm leaving day after tomorrow, I can tell you anything I want. Gentlemen, I know this is a sensitive area, but I'm going to tell you, sports. I'm going to talk to you about your sports. You want to read a good book on this? One of the best authors in the Adventist Church, you should know this man's name. He's written a number of books. Arthur Spalding. How many of you recognize that book? That name, Arthur Spalding. Arthur Spalding. A-U-L-D-I-N-G. He's written a number of books. Very deep, profound books. Arthur Spalding. A lot of his books are out of print now because he was 100 years ago. Okay, could we take care of these cell phones, please? Arthur Spalding wrote a book called Who is the Greatest? Now, you know who said that statement, don't you? I am the greatest. And Cassius Clay, who's now Muhammad Ali. I am the greatest. So he wrote the book, Who is the Greatest? Spalding. And this book deals with sports and the violence that's involved in sports. It is the same thing as the Romans or the gladiators and all that. They just dress in fancy clothes and they get a lot more money. That's the only difference. Now, you don't have to follow this. You can go ahead and do what you do on Sunday afternoons, but I'm just telling you some information that you need to start thinking about. When you watch this violence and aggression and you don't participate, you're watching it, you pent up adrenaline in your body. And you know who gets it? Your kids, your wife, the family pet, because you're ready to attack. You've been watching this for hours. You're set. You're wired. And you try to act like a Christian man after watching that for 2 hours. I have been in a home of a friend of mine who's a huge fan of the Steelers, Pittsburgh Steelers. He has a real several $100 Pittsburgh Steeler helmet. And when a Steelers game is on, this happened just a couple years ago. I never saw this happen before. I was visiting them and his wife told me. She said, now the Steelers game is going to be on in another hour. She says, you want to leave the house? I said, really? She said, yes. And sure enough, about 5 minutes before that Steelers game, he brought that helmet out and he put it right there on the coffee table. He took out this towel, that's a Steelers towel. And he's got this big flat screen TV. And I'm not kidding you, in the first 15 minutes, I almost wet my pants. This guy jumped up, screamed, stomped, slung his arms all over the place, screamed at the referee, yelled at the players, that's it, tell him, knock him out, get in, you know. And I'm looking at this Christian man act like a demon. And I tapped her on the shoulder and I said, you're right, I'll be back in 2 hours. I left the house. That was satanic that was going on there. I could feel the power of demons coming inside my body. And I said, I'm out of here. I left the house, didn't come back for 2 hours. When I came back, he was this docile, gentle. And I said, Eli, you have no idea the damage you just did to yourself. The scars you just put on your brain. The adrenaline that's running through your nervous system. You think you turn that TV set off, I guarantee you, you're going to snap before you go to bed. Or you're going to snap the next day. Because you've done programmed yourself. You programmed your software. You're ready. You're on the attack. So you read that book by Arthur Spalding, Who is the Greatest? When I read it, that was it. I put down my tennis racket. I quit playing competitive tennis. I used to be a very good tennis player because I'm left-handed, which means I have the advantage to all the right-handed players because they're not used to hitting to me, but I'm used to hitting to them. And my coach said, you could go a long way playing tennis. I was good. But after I read that book, I said, nope. Because you know what I do? I kept watching people as I would play tennis against them. They would miss that ball. They'd go like this. And I said, that's not Christ-like. And so I quit hitting it hard. I kept hitting it easy to them. And yet they were still missing. And I could see them kick that racket and go like this. And they'd beat that racket on the thing. And I said, that's it. This isn't Christ-like. I don't play tennis anymore. Because I know what it does. It creates a lower nature. Now here's what this book brings out. And this is very interesting. 95% of the people who participate in sports lose. You understand that, don't you? I mean, even Michael Jordan didn't win every game, did he? No. 95% of the people lose. Satan loves this mentality. He wants you to understand that you're a loser. And if you're a loser, how are you going to win this battle with sin? Come on. Give up. You know how to lose. You lose all the time. And the worst part may be that you're the winner. Because you get pretty proud. You hold up that trophy. I'm something. Just ask me. It's a danger. So we have to be careful about what we're doing here. Because when we get that losing mentality, Satan wins. Because he'll keep reminding us that we're a loser. And you're not a loser. Jesus says you're my child. You're a winner. Another book, if you want to take a look at dealing with that very topic, is Neil Nedley's book, Proof Positive. Proof Positive. There's a chapter in there about sports. Dr. Neil Nedley. I think it's Neadley. Neadley. ABC knows what this book is. It's a $45 health book. Big, thick, blue book. Proof Positive. He has a chapter in there on sports. Boy, when I read it, it was clear. It was clear. I know you guys think this is fun. And you say, hey man, it's just my man thing, my guy thing. I'm telling you, it's much more serious than that. Much more serious than that. So you get to decide. I'm just giving you the information. I want you to start thinking it in a different way than you probably thought before. You just probably thought, this is a guy thing. Hey, we're having a great time. I'm telling you, you're getting set up. You're getting set up. Do you ever hear about Jesus? How about the early church fathers? Joseph Bates, Hiram Edson, playing football? No. They didn't do that. They didn't get involved in what Ellen White calls pugilistic games. Pugilistic games. Games of violence where you're making physical contact to another person. Jesus says, give to those who ask. If you ever had a basketball player give the ball to the opposing team, not only would the game be over, you'd be over. But isn't that what Jesus said? Give to those who ask. I've never seen a sports figure do it yet. Never done it yet. They do not follow biblical principles. All right? Romans chapter 13, verse 14. Romans 13 and verse 14. But put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh in regards to its lust. Don't make provisions for the flesh. Now I'll tell you, I have never owned a TV set until last year. People can't believe that. 56 years I never owned a TV set. Why? I didn't want to make provision for my flesh. Because at 23 when I became an Adventist Christian, I took the TV set out. No more TV. Because I can't control it. Yes, there's documentaries and there's information and there's public broadcasting, but you know what? Then I turn the channel. And then I'm watching a comedy that you'll never hear those jokes in heaven. And the next thing you know, I'm watching something else. And the next thing you know, it's 12:30. And I drag myself to bed and I'm tired in the morning. So I said, no TV. And for the next 30-some years, I had no television set. I bought a television set first time last year. I bought it $15 at a Salvation Army. The reason I bought it is because I have that $200 satellite dish that has 3 angels broadcasting, the Hope Channel, and the Loma Linda Channel. I'll tell you, that's Candyland for me. I can just flick those around. You're not preaching right? Boom, you're gone. And I like that, okay? Now, there is some things I watch on PBS. If 60 Minutes is having a special on health, if they're talking about, cholesterol, or they're talking about alcohol or something like that, I watch that. But it's very guarded. I prayed when I brought that TV set in the house, and I said, Lord, just don't let this turn into the beast. Don't let this turn into the beast. And so far, we've been really good with it, but I still fear the television set. Nothing else makes me more nervous in my house than that TV set, because I know what can happen on the wrong channel. But by God's grace, it's been good for the last year. We've been watching most of the time the Adventist stations, and then when I go through the guide and I see there's something special on PBS or something that I want to catch, I watch it. I'll tell you a story that they tell at Pacific Union College every year. They used to. I think the lady's passed away now. But this woman would come up to PUC every year at the beginning of the school year and have the entire chapel, and she would tell this story every year to the students at PUC. That's not Jesus. You better hang up. So she goes in there and she talks to all of these students, and she tells these students the story. Her and her husband were missionaries somewhere in the Caribbean. It was in an area where they practiced a lot of voodoo, black magic, those kinds of things. And they had two baby twin girls. Shortly after they arrived in the mission field, the two girls died. They got sick. They got some kind of virus, and they died. And so they were very heartsick about it. And one of the voodoo witch doctors came up to the husband and he said, "Say, I talked to your little girls the other day. They really miss you." And he said, "No, you didn't. My girls are asleep." He says, No, I talked to them. And he told them some things that only the little girls would know. And he said, "How did you know that?" He said, "I told you, I talked to them. They really want to see you again. Would you like to see your little girls again?" And he said, No, I don't want to see them. And he told his wife, and she said, "Stay away from that witch doctor. Stay away from him." And he says, I'm not. But every time he'd go into town, he'd see that witch doctor, and he'd say, he would go like this. But after a while, it started to get to him. And he thought, maybe if I just saw them one more time. Just one more time. So he went to the witch doctor, and he said, "I'd like to see my girls one more time." And he said, "All right, come to my house tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock he came in, they sat down, they visited, and he said, "Would you like to see them?" And he said, "Yes." And he called to the girls, and they come running around the corner. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy!" And they jumped up to his arms, and there was hugs and kisses, and tears were coming down his face, and he was so happy and so excited. And he said, "Oh, this is just so wonderful. This is so amazing." And he said, "My master can let you have the girls all that you want." And he said, "I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. But I just miss them so much." So he went home and he told his wife what he had done. She said, "No." She says, "You didn't do that." And he says, "They were so beautiful. I just wanted to hold them one more time." And she said, "Don't ever go to that witch doctor again. Stay away from him." A couple of weeks later, it started to bother him. And he told the witch doctor, he says, "I have a question I'd like to ask you." And he said, "What's that?" He says, "I would like to know what will cause more Seventh-day Adventists to miss the kingdom of heaven than anything else. Can you tell me what that is?" And he said, "I'll talk to my master and I'll get back to you." A couple of days later, he saw him again and he said, "I've spoken to my master and he's agreed to tell you what will cause Seventh-day Adventists to miss the kingdom of heaven more than anything else." And he said, "Tell me." He said, "There's a condition my master has placed on this." "What is the condition?" "That you can tell no one. And if you do tell anyone, within 48 hours, you will die." And he said, "Okay, I want to know." He said, "I will tell you. The one thing that will cause more Seventh-day Adventists to miss the kingdom of heaven than anything else is television. This is my master's perfect plan. On television, we teach you what to eat. We teach you what to wear. We teach you how to act. We teach you how to treat other people, and you learn very well from us, because as you behold us, you will become changed just like us." At first, we started out very innocent, and you remember, Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver, good moral stories, Dad was always right, but then it started to change, didn't it? And then it got more violent, more aggressive, then far more sexual. Even the commercials today would not have been allowed in the 60s on television. The commercials have become very sexual. He went, "Wow, that really makes sense. I can see it. Television, yes. He had sleepless night after sleepless night after sleepless night. And all he kept thinking was, I've got to warn our people. I've got to warn our people. And one night, he told his wife. He said, honey, I spoke to the witch doctor one more time. And she said, no, you didn't. And he said, I did. But I needed to know something. And he told her, television. The next morning, he became very sick. By the afternoon, he had to be taken to the hospital. And he said, get me on the telephone. I need to talk to the general conference. They hooked him up, got him to the general conference, and he told them the story. Within 48 hours, he was dead. Because you see, he had made a pact. The enemy had rights on him, and the enemy was allowed to take him. But his wife, every year, comes to tell the story to the students to plead with them, please, careful with the television. There is nothing more profound that Satan has to offer than the television set. If you can guard it well, more power to you. I can't. I'm still very nervous. And if that television starts getting out of control, it's gone again. Because she said, as we read in Steps of Christ, whatever shall draw the soul away from God must be given up. Okay? All right? But if you can put a guard and a monitor on, you can block out certain channels. You can't get, do that. But I'll tell you, if you can get that Loma Linda, 3ABN, and the Hope Channel, you're on the right track. Those are really inspiring things. And if you can get that going for you, you can be really having a blessing. All right. It's after 11, so I need to close pretty quick here. John 14, verse 30. John 14, verse 30. This is Jesus speaking here. He says, I will speak much more with you. I will not speak much more with you, for the ruler of this world is coming. Who's that? Satan. And he has nothing in me. When I read that, I said, boy, Lord, would I love to make that statement. Satan has nothing in me. I didn't put any food. I didn't put any liquid. I didn't put any music. I didn't put any video. I didn't put any internet in me that's from Satan. He has nothing in me. I don't want to put anything in me that Satan can use. Is that right? He has nothing in me. What a wonderful statement. Satan has nothing in me. Because if he has nothing in you, then he can't control you. That's why you want Jesus in you. Christ in you, the hope of glory. Now, besides the diet, which I am very careful about, and we're going to go very specifically in that presentation tonight, talking about the diet and how it affects us. Also, what's very important for me is my exercise program. I am extremely faithful in my exercise program. Unless I have an injury or I'm sick, I never go more than 3 days without an exercise program. Because once I hit that third day, I just start to slow down and feel like the rest of you. And I don't like that feeling. I don't like it at all. I want my high energy. I want my excitement. I want my enthusiasm about life. And I'll tell you what, I lose it after 3 days of no exercise. I travel with my exercise device that I use. I have it over here. You guys want to slide back a little bit. We'll have a better view of this. This is a trampoline. Some of you saw it, brought it in. I brought it on the wheel. Anything bigger than a 737 jet, I can put it in on the overhead of the plane. And so I travel this with me. If I'm going to be gone more than a week, this goes with me. And since I've been in Bolivia for a month, this went with me on the plane. I don't leave home without it. It's better than American Express, even though I have that too. But this one here is the most important thing that I travel with. Because with this, and I'll show you a video of it, I think at the banquet. And when we have the banquet, do we have a TV set that I can show? A DVD? Okay, like a TV set. Well, last night we had a half screen. I don't know what happened there.
No, we have a screen right here.
Oh, right here. Okay, and it'll show the... Okay, so we'll show you a little bit about that. This is the one I use. I use this every day, 2 to 3 times a day. When I first wake up in the morning, this is what I do. I just do these gentle wake-up bounces like this. Your lymphatic valves are one-way valves. They only open one direction. And the way to open those up is to bounce. It's exactly what I do. I just bounce in the morning, and that's my wake up. Not coffee, not alcohol, not the internet. I wake up to this, okay? And I bounce on this and wake up. Then mid-afternoon, about 2 o'clock is when I have my workout. My workout takes about an hour to do. And what I do is I get on this, and I warm up again. And this time I'm bouncing higher. And when I bounce on this for about 5 or 10 minutes, then I do a routine where I go out over the edge, and then I do 25 push-ups like this. And after I do 25 push-ups, then I take some barbells, and then I do curls with my barbells, and I do 25 with a lightweight, 25. Then I put rocks in a backpack. That's my weights. I put rocks in a backpack, and then I lift more rocks, and then again, and then I take the rocks back out to make it a little lighter, and I do it again, and then I go down on this, and I do crunches with my stomach like this, or I can bounce from side to side like this, which throws the weight right into my ab area so that I can keep a washboard instead of a dryer. Okay? What happens when you start carrying this dryer is that your back is going to start hurting. You talk to any pregnant women where they say, "Oh, my back." Well, some of you guys got twins, triplets going around in there, okay? You need to get rid of those, otherwise you're going to have backaches. And that's one of the serious, persistent, chronic problems for North Americans. Backache. Back specialists. They make lots of money. The reason they're making money is because you got stuff out here, okay? This stuff throws your spine out of alignment. And then you're going to have back problems. Your discs, your synovial fluids in your disc, going to have problems. We're going to show you that on a video more tonight. A friend of mine designed this one. This is a special one. There's nothing else like it on the market, because of the tapered springs and the mat. You see this mat here does not warp like this. These have special fibers in it that will not allow it to warp. You buy the cheap Kmart $49 one, and I'll guarantee within a year, it's going to start warping like this. And you know what happens then? When it warps like that, your ankles, when you bounce, they pronate. They'll start to bend in. And when they pronate, your knees and your hip sockets will also be out of alignment, and then you're going to be in pain. Don't buy the cheap ones. This one costs quite a bit more, but it's worth it. You spend a lot more going to McDonald's or renting movies over a year than you will on this. And so I want to show you exactly the amazing thing that this can do. Now, I know Roger's a fitness trainer, and so I'll have him come up because I don't want to hurt the rest of you. But Roger, come on up. Since he's a fitness trainer, he should be a good example. Sometimes I have people volunteer to want to do this, and I said, I don't think you better come up here because could be some problems. Well, I'm going to show you in just 3 minutes how I can change not only the balance and coordination for Roger, but I'm also going to show you how he can increase his strength in 3 minutes. Absolutely amazing. When I first saw this demonstrated a couple years ago, the guy who designed this, David, showed it to me. I couldn't believe it. But he called me up out of the audience and had me do it. And from then on, we've been very best friends. We've been to Guam together. We've been to Alaska. We've been to Colorado, New York, Connecticut, travel all over. This guy loves this whole thing. And when he heard my first presentation on health, he was amazed. He said, "Where'd you get this information?" I said, "Oh, we've had it for 100 years. He said, "Well, who wrote this down?" And I said, "Well, it's a woman named Ellen White." I said, "I'd like you to read some of her books." He said, "Please, anything." So I gave him Desire of Ages. I said, "Have a look at that book." He read the book. He called me up. He says, "I could not go to sleep reading that book. I stayed up and read it." In 2 days, he read the whole book. And he said, "Paul, this woman's inspired." And I said, "Yeah, a lot of us think so." And he says, "Does she have any more books?" I said, "About 55. So anyway, he's a Sabbath keeper now. He's not a Seventh-day Adventist. He said, "I'm not sure I want to have that label on me," but he says, "I am a Sabbath keeper, and I do like her." So, Roger, what I'm going to show you, first of all, is I'm going to test your balance. So what I want you to do, stand like this, hold your hands out in front of you, lock your fingers like this, okay? Keep your elbows like this. And what I want you to do is hold that, and I'm going to push down, and I want you to keep your balance. Do not lean back on me. I'll let you go and fall. Okay? So just stand like this, and I'm going to test your balance.
Can I bend my knees a little bit?
No. Yeah, you can bend your knees a little bit. Okay? Okay, let's try it one more time. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Don't lean back. Okay? All right. Now I want you to sit down with your feet this way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to push Roger down. So I want you to cross your hands in front of you like this. And I want you to hold your stomach tight, and I'm going to try to push you over, all right?
You guys could stand up.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to try to push him down just by going against him. Okay, I want you to try again. Get real tight in here. Okay, you ready? Okay. Now, Roger, I want you to get up and bounce. You're going to be amazed what happens to this guy in 3 minutes. Okay, begin. Right now, what's happening is a lot of things inside his whole body. He's even getting more oxygen and fluid in his eyes because he's bouncing like this. You ask any mother, when a baby gets cranky, what does she do with that baby? She bounces him. That's right. Bounce that baby. You see a baby in a crib and he first starts to walk or starts to get up. What does he do in the crib? He bounces. That's right. Yes. But we forget to do this as we get older. We try to do something else. And so we forget this. And this is why I use this. When I go to bed at night, I bounce on this for a couple minutes before I go to bed, because during the day I tend to get tight in my traps. I get tight up in here. So what I do is I get on that and I roll my arms around like this and I roll them backwards and I shake them out like this and I bounce, and guess what? It all loosens out. I go to sleep. It's wonderful. So I use it in the morning to wake up. I use it in the nighttime to loosen up. I use it in the daytime to work out. My workout, as I told you, is about 45 minutes, and I love it. I have a Walkman that I listen to, so I listen to music so I don't hear myself sweat. And you need to listen to appropriate music. If you listen to music that has too much drive and beat to it, that actually deteriorates your nervous system, and your physical workout will be less. It will not be more. You need to have inspirational music. Now, one more minute. You're doing good. Yes?
Well, I think his breakfast is coming up.
Oh. Well, I'll stay back here. You look that way, Roger. Yeah, I didn't watch to see how much he ate. Okay, another 30 seconds, and then I'm going to show you what happens to your system when you clean it out and do it like this. Right now, Roger is getting no injuries to his system. He's not jarring anything because he's not hitting a hard surface. He's hitting a spring surface. These springs are tapered on both ends. You will find the cheap ones, but they're not tapered on the end. This one here, you take it and you take the cheap one and bounce on it. You see a world of difference between the two. There are people who are on walkers, people who are on wheelchairs, who are up walking now simply because they use this. Okay, go ahead and step off. We're going to try the same thing again. I'm going to have Roger hold his hands out, and I'm going to try to pull him over. Okay? Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do it again. See, it's hard to take him off balance. Okay, I want you to sit down. I'm going to try to push you over again. Okay, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
He's much stronger in just 3 minutes. Thank you very much. Now, there was a lady that saw David do this program this is where I met David, in Lodi, California. They have this huge health retreat. It's run by Adventists, but Dr. Blaylock and Dr. T. Colin Campbell and other non-Adventists are always there at this symposium. And that's where David was at. And a lady came up on a walker. She was on a walker, and she came up, she was 80-some years old, and she said, next year my doctors had told me that I'll be in the wheelchair the rest of my life. Do you think I can use this? And he said, yes, but when you start out, keep your feet on the mat. Do not come up off the mat, because you need to start out slow like this. Build up your back muscles. And allow yourself just to bounce and to clean up the system, open up those lymphatic glands, and just bounce like this. Very simple, very gently. And then after a period of a couple of weeks or a month, then you can start going a little higher on it. And then after a couple of months, you can start getting your feet off the mat. And she said, and that'll work. And David says, if you get my trampoline, and after 30 days you're not happy with it, send it back, I'll give you all your money back. And David does it. He's a Christian man. He's an honest man. And if you're not happy, he'll take it back. So she got it. And a year later, she was at the same symposium. And at the end of the presentation that he made, a woman stood up. She ran all the way up the front, ran up the stairs, and went like this. And she said, last year, the doctors told me I would be spending the rest of my life in a wheelchair. And now I don't even have my walker. She's in her 80s. And yet this got her off the walker, never to be in the wheelchair. And now she's able to do this. Simply because she gave the body the right tools to work effectively without damage or injury or jarring. And this, I'll tell you something, for clear thinking and more oxygen in the brain, and also to keep that sexual drive down, physical exercise is very important. For men, they need to have physical exercise. And I don't mean the violent kind in sports, because that's just going to backfire on you. You need to have healthy, proper physical exercise that is not pugilistic. In other words, where you're beating or attacking somebody else. You need to have something that is good for yourself and not beating somebody else or allowing you to take authority over someone. All right? Some questions? Yes.
Is that available online?
Yes, I'll give you the website and the 800 number tonight. I don't have it with me right now. But there's an 800 number you can call. You talk to David. Tell David you were at my seminar. He gives special discounts to people who come to my lectures. Because he said, if you're serious enough to go to Paul's lecture, I'm serious enough to give you a discount. And if you guys want to do a group thing, he even gives you a bigger discount if you want to get a group thing. Because he's interested in getting people on this. And the reason that I use this is anything I can get you to get moving, I'm in favor of. And this will get you moving. And so that's why I'm in favor of it. I don't make any money off of this. This is not why I do this. I simply make it available because I believe in this. And the foods I'm going to be telling you about tonight, I don't make any money off the foods. I'm going to tell you about millet. I'm going to tell you about Herbamare. I'm going to tell you about a lot of things. I don't make any money off of it. I tell you this because I know it works. It's what I use. It's a part of my life. This is a part of my life. I don't go home without this. Yes.
How many pounds this arm allow to support?
David says around 350, 400 is the weight. But you have to call him and ask him. Yeah. 1 foot at a time. 1 foot at a time. You're like my brother. When he gets on the scale, it says 1 person at a time, please. My brother's got you beat, though. He's 600. So you have a ways to go. Yes.
2 things. In regards to the sports that you're talking about, you spoke about contact sports. What about things like soccer, stuff like that? It's not a contact sport. Is it the competitiveness or just...
Soccer is not a contact sport? Well, I made contact when I played soccer. And I was contacted.
So then the next thing then, if it's about the competition, is it about the competition or the actual physical contact?
Well, there's physical contact and the fact that I think that I can take somebody and do things to him. This creates to me an anger, and it creates an animosity from him that I touched him. And yeah. Right. So, I mean, when I get bumped, I turn around, like, what's going on? And so there's physical contact in soccer. I've seen nasty tripping going on and penalties going on because the final score is the goal, not your life. If you break your neck, next puppy. Yeah. So it's not only physical contact, but it is that competitiveness. And there's very few things. I still go snow skiing, but I used to race. I was a downhill racer. I was a semifinalist in the Greek Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City because I used to compete. And my last race, I crashed. And that's when I hung up my skis because I knew I was too competitive. I was coming down the giant slalom, and if you know anything about racing, if you miss a gate, you're disqualified. However, if you thought you missed a gate and you go back and go through the gate, you can still score. Well, anyway, I'd gone down and I'd passed about 4 gates, and I thought I missed one. I wasn't quite sure. So I stopped my skis, and they have spotters all along the way, and I yelled, "Gate," and he said, "Good," which means I didn't miss my gate. But I lost about 5 seconds, and I knew that. So I got back on the course, and then I did what's called curl and tuck, which is very dangerous, but it works. And that is I took my poles behind me, and I sat down on my skis, no wind resistance, tucked my head down. All I could see were the tips of my skis going like this. That's too fast. But I wanted to qualify. And my skis were going like this, and I was going, whoa. And the finish poles, which are usually about this wide, looked like they were like this. I was going so fast. I could hardly see. I couldn't keep the tears out of my eyes. And those poles, I don't know if I can get between those two. They're too close. They were like this. I finally got over the finish line about 20 feet, and I exploded. Skis, poles, everything went everywhere. Everybody gathered around me, and they said, "Okay, don't move, don't move, don't move. First, see if you can wiggle your fingers." They wanted to see if I'd severed anything. So first I tried to wiggle my fingers, and that was okay. And they said, move your feet, you know. And they say, okay, just start to move your head slowly, you know. I was okay. It was a miracle. I crashed at a very high speed. And I realized then I needed to stop. I can't do this. I'm too competitive. I was in the top 10 of about 2,000 skiers. But I said, no more. That was it. I finished because I knew the next time I could kill myself. Why? Pride. I wanted to win. Wrong. And I wasn't touching anybody except the devil. Yes.
What alternative sports would you recommend for our young people? Because we need to get them involved in activities.
I know.
So, you know, all these other sports that we normally see.
Yes.
Competitive is, you know, it's one reason. What alternatives are there?
It's tough. You know, I have played volleyball with people. We tried to see how many times we could hit it back and forth rather than keep score. We never kept score. All we did was see how many times we can hit it back and forth. 8 times, 9 times, 10, 12. So the goal is to see how many times you can give it back to the other person. Now, I used to be a net man. And the net man, what we want to do is bust a nose. We want to come up and go down and smack that ball in their face and knock them silly. But when I play net now, I hit it over gently. I don't spike. No more spiking. I don't do that. Yeah, but I try to play the game to see how many times we can hit it back and forth rather than bowling. You guys talked about bowling. That's wonderful. Make sure you can get an alley that's smoke-free, you know, and so on. And if you got enough people bowling, they'll cater to you. They'll say they have smoke-free nights in some bowling alleys where there's no smoking allowed. Smoke-free leagues that you can get into. I think that's a healthier sport. The rest of them I'd have to think about. You just have to kind of watch the kids, and if you find they're getting like this, then you know something's wrong. They're getting that is the devil saying, I got this one, you know. And it takes time to learn that. And generally it's just safer to be real careful about those competitive things. There's a book out, Non-Competitive Activities, that you can get. And what it does is it lets you work together as a group, trying to do the best rather than trying to beat. And I don't remember the name of the book, but I used it at a camp one time. Dr. Hans Diehl's wife, Lily, lent it to me. And she said, here, look at some of these and see what you'd like to have the kids do at camp. Because she was of the same conviction that we don't want to get the kids fighting against each other and having pride and having discouragement. So there's a book, Non-Competitive Activities. If you check with Barnes & Noble or something like that, they should be able to help you. Yes.
Well, I found some writings from N.G. White that talked about sports specifically. If anyone's interested, I can email it to them.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. See Roger afterwards.
I have a quick question. With regards to the Pittsburgh situation, though.
The Steelers? Yeah.
That seems a bit extreme, though, right? Because, I mean, I watch basketball and I watch football, and I'm not...
And you almost fall asleep, huh?
Sometimes I fall asleep. I'm tired. But I mean, you don't have the helmet there. So, I mean, there's...
That's extreme, but I tell you, I have never seen a group of guys watching a football game and they all sit there going, wasn't that a wonderful touchdown? I just love Mike, the way that he smashed that guy's face and took him out. That was a wonderful thing to do. Great. Lord bless you.
What about with your kids or my son? Like a lot of times I go out and he'll be go out fishing. We're gonna go out fishing, and that's pretty. I mean, some people actually do it as a sport. Fishing. But I mean, it's a lot of work, a lot of energy involved. But there's also a lot of excitement and actually it involves the kill. Maybe not another person, but it involves catching the fish or the big one that got away.
Well, all you do is catch and release.
Does that trampoline offer full body workout, full cardio?
Yes, it does. I didn't show you all of it, but David will show you on the video that I'll show you before the banquet. But David shows you how you bounce. You do this thing here to take care of the love handles. You lean back like this to tighten up the abs and also underneath under the neck here so you don't have this turkey thing hanging loose. And the women's have got the cottage cheese legs, back here. There's women who do this. Now, he has a bar that slides into the legs that you can hang on to for beginners, all right? And what these women do, and they got rid of the cottage cheese legs, is they get down like this and then go like this as fast as they can. And those muscle fibers start attaching and they smooth out their skin. Yeah. So it works. But there's a number of other things. Like I said, you can sit down and you bounce from cheek to cheek like this, and that really tightens up the abs so that you have a nice flat stomach. And David shows you another, well, some people need to hang on the bar, but they go like this, and that tightens the glutes. Yeah. Yes.
What do you think of bodybuilders? You know, people who work out and lift a lot of weights. Do a lot of running, do a lot of swimming, people with bigger than ordinary muscles.
Yeah, when they can't go past the mirror without kissing it, then it's a problem. Okay? Resistance training is good training, lifting weights, okay? But not for the purpose of standing in front of the mirror like a peacock. Then we're back into the pride and vanity thing. It's good to be taught. Resistance training does work well. Swimming is, well, this is tonight's lecture, so just come tonight. We're talking about exercise. But weightlifting is okay if it doesn't become a vanity thing. If you have to watch yourself all the time and go before you go to bed at night. All right. Any other questions? Like I said, tonight I'll get you the 800 number and the website for David. It's sellersize.com. I can tell you that, the website. Because you're exercising your cells, so it's CELLERCISE.com, C-O-M, commercial. Seller, www.seller, C-E-L-L, because you're exercising your cells. That's actually what you're exercising. Sellersize, CELLERCISE.com. And you call that 800 number. Jerry usually answers the phone. He does the orders, takes the orders. You talk to Jerry. He's a former Navy SEAL, I think is what he was, a Navy SEAL. It was a Navy SEAL or, yeah, something like that. But anyway, talk to Jerry. Tell him you heard Paul Volk, and then he'll take good care of you. All right? Yes.
Try the jump rope. Is this better than the jump rope?
You could jump rope on this if you want, because then you're not hitting a hard surface. You're hitting that soft surface. Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh-huh.
What time is the meeting tonight?
Oh. Meeting tonight's at 7 o'clock. Like I said, I'll be there at 6:30. Anybody who's interested in ordering DVDs of the lectures, I'll be there at 6:30. We'll have some sheets where you can order them. I don't carry them with me. Obviously, I couldn't take them on this trip because I went to Bolivia first, and you don't go into a foreign country with a case of DVDs. Otherwise, they'll tax the stars out of you, thinking that it's a commercial venture, and they'll either confiscate it or tax me, and I didn't want to do that. So I didn't have any with me this time. But we order them. As soon as I get the order finished, I call the guy on the phone, and DVDs are very fast to duplicate now. I used to have videotapes, and that took a long time. But DVDs, he can do 10 at a time, and you'll have the order within 2 weeks. It'll come here to church in a box, and then you can get that. All right? And by the way, like I said at the beginning, if anybody would like me to come to their church or their country, see me afterwards, and we'll try to make arrangements. Anybody's going to the beach today, it looks like a nice day. I'd like to see your water and your sand, because I'm a water rat. I love to get in the ocean. You get me on the ocean, and I'm the closest I get to heaven for me. I love being at the water. It's just the nicest place for me. All right? Any other questions before we close? All right, I think we're good. Tonight at 7 o'clock, and please, if you can come tomorrow night, that is the most critical night. Everything depends on tomorrow night. That's critical. Tomorrow night we have the banquet, 5:30 to 6:30, and then 7 o'clock will be the final lecture on how to trust in God to the point that you know you'll be in the kingdom of heaven.
Thank you, Paul.
That's the fishes. You watch them in nature, right?
You gotta be kidding me, Paul. I used to like this guy till about an hour ago. No football, no NFL, no eggs. Holy mackerel. What are we in for? I just took a couple of notes. I can't read half of these things. This guy's a nice guy, but no NFL? Television? Internet? No eggs?
Miss Bubbles?
And what happens when you eat an omelet? Forget it. You see Bubbles again, I guess. You can't eat anything with a face. That's fish, chicken, and beef. What do you got left? You got veggie burgers.
Weeds and twigs.
Veggie burgers, that's a Brillo pad with ketchup. Anyway, there's no sense in getting into this. Paul's right. If you live this life, well, I gotta throw away 6 television sets when I go home. Wow, no football. No football. This is unbelievable. This guy is terrific. He's right in what he says, but it's going to be a tough battle. If you guys can do any part of this, it'll be an improvement. And if you can go back this evening, it'd be great. If there's anybody still has their little index card that hasn't turned it in yet, we'd appreciate it. And gentlemen, we thank you so much for coming. This was 85 minutes, a tremendous crowd. And we promise you next time we'll have the Yankees here on time. I'm sorry we ran out of food, but we didn't expect this many guys. But Paul, thanks to Paul Volk, everybody came. I was looking at the faces on all the men when he was talking about football. 90% of you turkeys are going to be home in an hour from now. You're going to have that game. Unbelievable. But we'll do what we can. He's on the right track, and then let's hope that we can do the right thing as far as men and Christians go. Closing prayer. Who's going to, Michael, you're going to do the closing prayer? Yes. All right, gentlemen. Everybody stand, please.
Let's pray. Everlasting Father that is in heaven, we give thee thanks for the privilege, of Father, to be here together as men. We thank you for the words of Paul, and we ask you, Father, that you will help us to be better ministers, be better men. Help us, oh Father, even though some of these things are part of our lifestyle, of God. Help us to put them in practice, of God, to serve you better, oh God. Help us to prepare our mind and be able, oh Father, to resist temptation, oh Father. Help us, oh, to not to keep it to ourselves, to go out there and share with others. Right. We pray after leave this place, oh Father, that you'll be with us, be with our families, and help us, oh Father, that this will not be the last, but help us to come back again, oh Father, and help us to stick together as men. Sometimes it's hard to get men together, but we pray, oh Father, that you will help us, that this is their last minute for this year, but you will help us to have many more next year. God protects us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Gentlemen, if you guys want to stick around and help us put away the tables and the chairs and do a little straightening up, thanks for coming.